something huge just spoke from the deep. During the summer of 1997, an unexpected sound echoed from the depths of the Pacific Ocean, a noise so strange it left scientists puzzled and searching for answers. It wasn't an explosion or a volcanic rumble. It was something else entirely, a low-frequency roar that climbed in pitch, stretched for a full minute, and echoed across the Pacific Ocean from one hydrophone to the next, thousands of kilometers apart. Scientists at NOAA were stunned. This wasn't background noise. It was loud, louder than anything biological, yet somehow it sounded alive. When the recording was sped up, the signal took on an eerie, almost organic quality, a throaty rising groan from something no one had ever heard before. And in that moment, they realized they weren't just listening to data, they were listening to a mystery. The name sounds funny, the implications don't. They named it the bloop, a nickname so playful it almost mocked the gravity of what had been discovered, but beneath that lighthearted label was one of the loudest, most baffling underwater signals ever recorded by human instruments. This wasn't a minor blip. It was a roar, a sound so powerful that it reverberated across the vast Pacific Ocean, captured simultaneously by hydrophones stationed thousands of kilometers apart. There was no confirmed origin, no accompanying seismic event, no ship activity, and no visible cause. And that's when the unease began to settle in. That area, roughly 50 degrees south, 100 degrees west, wasn't just oceanic dead space. It bordered a spot infamous in speculative fiction, the fictional sunken city of R'lyeh, home of H.P. Lovecraft's ancient god Cthulhu. Could it be a coincidence? Maybe. But for scientists poring over the data and listening closely to the rising pitch of that signal, it didn't feel random. It felt like something ancient had moved, or worse, awakened. A sound that defied science. The bloop wasn't just a sound. It was a contradiction wrapped in static, a data point that refused to be categorized. When NOAA first analyzed the signal in 1997, their instruments confirmed one thing: this wasn't ordinary. It didn't align with the seismic thumps of an earthquake, nor did it resemble the familiar acoustic footprints of undersea landslides, volcanic activity, or even distant oceanic storms. Instead, the bloop displayed characteristics unnervingly biological, a rapid upsweep in frequency spanning nearly a full minute, with a sound so powerful it was picked up by hydrophones over 5,000 kilometers apart. But that only deepened the mystery. If it were biological, then something had to be making it, something alive, something massive. The bloop's amplitude suggested a creature larger than a blue whale, the largest known animal to have ever lived, larger than any colossal squid, larger than anything science had ever documented or imagined, and yet there was nothing. No photographic evidence, no sonar shadows, no washed-up remains, just a single signal echoing across the Pacific, a sound that should not have existed, but it did. And it demanded explanation. Theories, speculations, and sea monsters. In the years that followed, theories flooded in like a tide. Some thought it was military, a secret naval test, submarine collision, or underwater detonation. Others guessed at machinery, perhaps deep-sea drilling or sonar experiments. But none of those explanations matched the specific frequency and tonal rise of the bloop. Then came the wilder suggestions. Could it be a giant squid, an unknown species of whale, a prehistoric beast rising from the abyss? Some even floated the idea of a creature so vast and ancient it had simply evaded human detection in the unexplored dark. With over 90% of the ocean still unmapped, that theory didn't sound as crazy as it should have. But behind all the speculation, scientists at NOAA kept working. They weren't hunting monsters, they were listening carefully, patiently, for a pattern. And eventually, they found one. The ice that screamed. After nearly a decade of speculation, analysis, and dead-end theories, the breakthrough didn't rise from the depths of mythology. It emerged from cold, calculated physics. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, while expanding its underwater listening posts deeper into the Southern Ocean, particularly near the Bransfield Strait and the rugged remote waters off South Georgia Island, began detecting similar acoustic signatures. Signals that felt eerily familiar. They were loud, deep, trembling, and rising in pitch, just like the bloop. But this time, there was no confusion. No whispers of monsters or ancient leviathans. These sounds were born from ice. Scientists dubbed them ice quakes, immense seismic events that occur when glaciers shift violently or when massive icebergs tear away and fracture. The planet's frozen architecture was screaming, and the sea was listening. Then came 2008. A giant iceberg named A53A began to collapse near Antarctica. As it cracked and splintered, the acoustic pattern it released was a near-perfect match to the bloop. Not similar, identical. And just like that, the mystery dissolved. Not into disappointment, but into something far more sobering. The answer wasn't fiction, it was a fact. The source wasn't Cthulhu rising. It was climate unraveling. Why the bloop still matters. Now you might think the story ends there, the mystery solved, the case closed, but that's exactly where it deepens. Because the bloop, while stripped of its mythical disguise, wasn't just a one-time anomaly. It was a pulse, a tremor in the heartbeat of a planet quietly unraveling. Icequakes like the bloop have grown more frequent and more intense, echoing not from beasts, but from ice itself, ancient, stressed, and cracking under pressure. These are not benign tremors. They are born when colossal glaciers shear apart, or when entire slabs of Antarctic ice shelves splinter into the sea. Each rupture sends a deep, resonant sound wave rippling through the ocean, a sound that scientists now recognize as more than seismic noise. It is the ocean bearing witness to planetary change. We once feared the bloop might be a monster, but perhaps the real monster is the one we've unleashed: rising temperatures, melting polar caps, shifting ocean currents. In this light, the bloop becomes more than a solved mystery. It becomes a harbinger, a cry from the deep, not of a creature, but of Earth itself, wounded, warning, and growing louder. The bloop wasn't just a sound, it was a prophecy. The deep sea is listening. The ocean isn't silent. It's alive with signals, pulses, and hidden messages, if you know how to hear them. Hydrophones, once built for Cold War submarines, now act as stethoscopes for the planet. Scientists can hear whales migrating, storms forming, and even the slow rumbles of underwater volcanoes. But increasingly, what they're hearing is ice, cracking, splitting, screaming. And it's happening more often. Every year, thousands of ice quakes now roar beneath the Southern Ocean. Some are as loud as the bloop, most go unnoticed. But they add up. Together, they're painting a chilling picture of a polar region on the edge, melting faster, breaking louder, and sending out acoustic shockwaves with every calving event. The bloop wasn't unique. It was just the first one we noticed. When the planet speaks. We live in a time when Earth is speaking louder than ever, through rising seas, through melting ice, through deep, haunting signals like the bloop. And yet, we barely listen. We build, we mine, we burn. We measure progress in megawatts and convenience, not in decibels of warning from the deep. But what if we did listen? What if we treated the ocean not as a resource, but as a messenger? Because sometimes the greatest threats aren't visible, they're audible. They echo from places we never think to check: deep trenches, glacial shelves, and submerged cliffs in the coldest corners of the world. The bloop might not have belonged to a sea creature, but it carried a message all the same. It was a distant echo from the abyss, a signal hinting that a shift was underway. The ocean's silence had been broken. Earth's icy defenses, the cryosphere, were starting to fracture, and the deep was beginning to stir. And once it cracks, it doesn't stop. The bloop was never just a sound. In the end, it wasn't guesswork that unraveled the mystery of the bloop. It was science that brought the truth to light. It wasn't the call of an unknown leviathan. It was the death rattle of ancient ice, a cry from the ocean's lungs as they fractured under the weight of a changing climate. It's poetic, really, that something so strange, so loud, so impossible, turned out to be nature's alarm bell. The ocean may be vast, ancient, mysterious, but it's not quiet. It's trying to tell us something, through strange sounds, through impossible echoes, through signals like the bloop. And perhaps, now more than ever, it's time we truly pay attention. Because of the next one, it might not be just a sound. If this story stirred something in you, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. We're just getting started. This isn't the last signal. This is just the beginning. Until next time, stay curious.